What's going on, Loki? He's looking for more food. Unfortunately, around Christmas time, this guy had an eye infection in his right eye and can't see out of it anymore. So recently I started calling him Captain Jack. And he's the head of the Misfit Crew. And it's these two guys right here and two ducks that are on the other side of the stall wall, as well as a white rooster. And I leave the ducks in here because one of them got attacked by a hawk. I'm pretty sure it's a hawk because he was all bloody one day. And then the other one, she just, even last winter, had a really hard time getting around outside in the snow. She doesn't really clean herself off when she gets muddy. I don't really know what's wrong with her. She can get around all right on grass and anything that's not, ice or snow. So for the wintertime, I brought her in the barn. I left her with this guy right here, who was kind of was shunned from the rest of the group. All the other roosters just chase him around all over the yard. So this all started with just one of these white pecking ducks and this white rooster here. And they basically... the other roosters were chasing that white rooster around, so I had to separate him. The white duck, I noticed earlier in the wintertime, was just having a super hard time being outside. She couldn't really get around in the snow. She was always shaking, so I brought her into the barn, put her in this extra stall that was used for just some extra hay storage, and the two of them just kind of hung out. I felt really bad leaving them in the barn, especially because I couldn't let them out outside during the day. So the very beginning of wintertime, this entire stall, I think it's about 7 by 8, was pretty much used for hay storage. And then when I started picking away at it, that's when I started noticing this girl right here was having a really hard time getting around outside in the snow. So I brought her in, and then this guy was getting beat up by all the other roosters. So I grabbed him one day, brought him in, and the two of them just kind of hung out for, I don't know, about a month. And then I was outside one afternoon and I noticed that this white duck behind him, he's a male duck, he wasn't like all bloody, but he had some cuts on him. So I brought him in just to keep an eye on him. I don't know if he got attacked by a hawk or something happened to him. So these three guys and gals, were all just hanging out, pretty much living in harmony. And I've noticed since coming in here that these two white ducks actually cuddle a lot and they kind of keep each other warm. They make little nests in all the extra hay that I put down for them. I think they've really kind of bonded. This white rooster just kind of hangs out with them and just lives his life. And he can actually get out. Same thing with these two guys. And I got Frankie, who's already gone to sleep even though it's still light outside. But the two of them, they can get outside anytime they want. The door's open, the sheep... Actually, hi sheep. What's going on? They're kind of what I'm doing in their stall. But these guys can go in and out as much as they want, and they don't. I think they're pretty comfortable in here. They've got food, they've got water, they've got plenty of room to run around, they've got hay that they can look through and find some extra grain. The ducks can't obviously get out, but they just can't. Right now it's too cold, too much snow. So Captain Jack there he goes. Has kind of a sad story. He was the head rooster. He's the father to all the other roosters I have, besides the two white ones that I got when I first started this farm. It's hard to tell, but right before Christmas, he had a really, really bad eye infection, and he had ooze, and I had to come out here and clean out his eye. I had to give him antibiotic injections, and over the course of about a month, he was doing a lot better. So I decided eventually to let him outside and see how he does back with this flock. He instantly just got run out of town. I had to go in there. I was outside doing stuff, and I heard a bunch of commotion, so I ran over, and he was just getting attacked. So I decided to put him back in the barn. I got nervous with him in with this rooster because I didn't really know how the two roosters would react to each other, and they didn't have any space to run away from each other. I mean, I guess they could have gone out that door, but they otherwise have been fine. I mean, it's kind of funny how all the misfits are actually the chickens and the ducks that get along better than the rest of the flocks I have. So they seem to be all living in harmony, and I haven't seen any major issues, and I've kept this pretty strong eye on it just because they haven't been able to get away. I know the roosters that are over there on their perches, I think there's 6 roosters in that batch of 11. They fight constantly, but no one ever really gets hurt because they're able to get away from each other. So they kind of duke it out outside, and then they just take off. And these two are kind of confined, and they seem to just live in harmony. I think that white rooster just runs away whenever he goes down and gets food. But for the most part, him and Frankie just kind of hang out on this wooden fence divider I put up for the sheep. So, right, buddy? And he's pretty friendly. I mean, I like him. He's not mean at all. I can get right up to him and he doesn't go after me. He doesn't run away. He just hangs out. Right, buddy? His eye's a little freaky, but he seems to manage all right. So on this farm, I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different flocks. So I have the rooster flock, which has some hens in it. They hang out up there, and they sleep on the hay rack. And then I have the misfits that are confined to that stall, the sheep stall, which they actually can get out from the door, but they just don't go anywhere. And then I have the goose pen, which is where the ducks and the geese are. And then I have the hen pen, which has 11 hens and 2 roosters right now. I knew one of the roosters from this flock kind of integrated himself in there, and he's been doing fine, so I just left him. I know that some people only have 1 run or 1 pen or 1 coop or 1 area to keep their ducks or geese or chickens, but I think the good thing I've seen about having multiple areas for chickens and ducks to live is not only can you separate 2 ducks or 2 geese or 2 chickens that don't get along, but they also can find their own homes. So when I first got my first batch of chickens, they lived together, and then I actually acquired a second flock, then a third flock within a week, and the 2 flocks kind of fought each other for a day or two over who the pecking order and who was in charge. But then after that, the flocks definitely intermingled, and then they kind of found their own area. They found the flock, and they found their own friends. And I noticed that, one chicken from one flock and another chicken from another flock started hanging out. For the most part, these guys just kind of hang out together and don't mind. It's worked out pretty well. Hopefully when it warms up, I can get the 2 ducks outside and build. I want to build all these guys their own little coop, and then give them a run that they can still be outside and do chicken and duck things, but without the threat of being attacked by the roosters or another hawk. It's hard to tell right now, but these 2 ducks absolutely love each other. Every time I come in the barn, they're always cuddling or hanging out. And at first I thought it was just because they were cold, but they're actually pretty. It's been on warm days too. I've seen them just be right next to each other, so they're pretty inseparable. And I don't know. They'll probably end up being together forever, hopefully. And just for a house cleaning tip, ducks on deep bedding method is a nightmare. They just take all their water and just splash it everywhere. So one thing I started doing recently, and actually did a lot of it today, is just push all the hay and all the nasty stuff into one corner, and then I just put a fresh layer of bedding down. So that way they have options of super, super dry area to be around. They have a semi-dry area with newer hay that they can kind of nest in, which they're doing now. But then they also have this other hay that I think eventually the chickens will kind of pick through. But I don't want to get rid of that just yet, because that actually, the more you stir it, the more it creates heat. and this actually warms the barn up quite a bit. Same thing with the goats and the sheep. I haven't cleaned them out since probably October, and I just keep adding fresh hay and fresh shavings and stirring it every, I don't know, like week or two. And I probably should do it more, but I just keep adding fresh layers of bedding, especially when it gets super, super cold. And these guys, you know, the barn is way warmer in here than it is outside. And I've noticed even at nights where it gets down in the teens and the single digits, I can come in here for the most part and break up the ice. When it gets into the negatives, it's a little bit different, but yeah, this barn stays pretty warm, and there's definitely, you know, this is a full wall of hay. I got the sheep over there, so there's no drafts. But these guys look like they're getting ready to go to bed. The sun's going down. They've had their food. They got some fresh water right after work, so they're kind of hunkering in for the night. Aren't you, buddy? He's just like, get away from me. Okay. Okay.